Kevin, thank you so much for the time. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. Welcome back to Texas. I say welcome back because I know you make it a point whenever you're touring to come through this great state. You've performed in Austin, I'm guessing, countless times at this point, including the newly
Yeah,
reopened Cap City Comedy Club. What are your impressions of every time you get to come through and perform comedy in Austin, Kevin?
I love Austin. And it seems like everybody loves Austin. I live in Los Angeles, and people are talking about the two cities I love the most are Nashville and Austin. And I love Austin because it's one of these cities where people really get involved and they like to have a good time and they're just they came to a place that they could really enjoy the lifestyle.
Yeah, and look, you're somebody who has done a lot in entertainment over time, but at your foundation, you are a stand-up comedian. I think that's a fascinating part of your story that people do not talk with you enough about. And look, I get it; the SNL stuff is a big deal, as are all the
Right.
movies. But I'm a huge stand-up nerd, so I love to see people who don't necessarily want to play the Hollywood game, who can solely focus on that art form, get to do so in a place like Austin now.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I'm lucky to get to perform all over the country. And like I've never been to New Braunfels before. And it's just so quaint and the place I'm staying at is nice. And the theater is, like you said, it's a really cool theater. So I really enjoy doing what I do. I've never stopped doing stand up from the get-go. I've been, even when I've done shows like Saturday Night Live or Weeds or Man with a Plan, any of these shows I've been doing, I always stick with the comedy when there's a break or there's you know um a summer when I'm not working. I continue doing stand up even on my off time.
You started pursuing stand up comedy after hearing on the radio that Freddie Prinze had died, while also wanting to impress a girl that you knew at the time. When did stand up comedy become a serious pursuit for you, though?
Well, like you said, I was raking leaves, but I've always loved stand-up comedy. When I started, there weren't as many comics as there are now. There's maybe a handful of comedians because it was such a novelty act to go to a club and watch somebody live doing stand-up. Now, of course, it's commonplace, and it seems like everybody has a funny bone in them, and it's just a matter of mining that funny bone if they want to be a professional stand-up. But yeah, so I would like memorize the jokes in the back of the Parade magazine, which is a section of the newspaper, and they would have my favorite jokes in there by the whatever the popular comics were back then. And I would memorize those jokes and go to a party and tell them as if they were my, I personalized them. And eventually somebody said, "Hey, you should go to the comedy clubs in New York City and try real stand up." And ultimately that's what I did, and I never stopped doing it. I love it. It's all I wanted to do was stand up. This other stuff, Saturday Night Live and Weeds and that all that came secondary. All I wanted to be was stand up. That's why I'm still doing it to this day.
Well, it seems like the quote unquote day job is allowing you to continue to pursue this passion even at the age of 72.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I mean, I just love it so much. I'll always be doing it and I'll always make time for it. I think it's become kind of addictive. I think when you've been doing it this long, I remember when I was at the Denver airport a long time ago and I ran into Bob Newhart in the lounge. And I had known Bob Newhart because he hosted SNL once when I was on there. And I said, "How you doing, Bob?" He goes, "Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm just working on the road." I said, "Yeah, me too, man. I'm getting tired, man. I've been doing it for 29 years." He goes, "Try 55 years."
Well,
But
and
yeah,
thinking about your path, you in LA, you worked at the Improv, not only up on stage, you were actually bartending in your off time. Just how important that for your education with really understanding how to go about honing your craft?
well, I got to tell you, that was a real opportunity for me that presented itself. I befriended the bartender there, and he took a liking to me. And he said, "Hey, you want to work on the slow night Sunday, Monday?" And I'd never been a bartender before. I didn't know how to make a 707. So yeah, so I got into that position, and it was the best thing that could have happened to me at that time because I got to see all these stand-ups that I used to watch on TV. I used to wait and watch these comics on TV, and here they are in the club ordering a drink from me and saying hi to me, and then I go back in the back room and I watch them perform. Andy Kaufman, Robin Williams, Jay Leno. I mean, it was just, and I lived at that club. I didn't go anywhere else. If I had people coming in to visit me, I'm from Connecticut, but I moved to LA. if I had friends visiting me from the East Coast, I couldn't give them a tour of LA. All I could show them was the Improv because that's pretty much where I lived.
Were you ever performing at some of the other clubs in town? Obviously, the Comedy Store's made a name for itself over time. Were you strictly an improv guy?
Well, at the time I was improv, I wanted to work at the Comedy Store. My goal was to get my name on the outside of the Comedy Store because it's an all black building with white lettering of the comics that work there. And that would have been good for me. I would have been really happy from then on. But the owner, Mitzi Shore, wasn't really a fan of mine because I worked at the Improv. I was doing stand up there and also as a bartender there. So at the time, there was a real kind of a territorial thing, I think. Although she said I could work there as a doorman. So I said, no, thanks. That's okay. But the cool thing was she said I should work other places. And I did. And the cool thing was, many years later, I had a billboard across the street from her for weeds. And I was on the billboard.
Well, according to those who actually worked for Mitzi, she wasn't fond of most of the people that worked there either. So you weren't alone
Well,
with
I
that.
don't know about that because I didn't spend a lot of time there, but I mean, there were some people that were really fond of her, and I think it was so different back then because Bud Freeman owned the Improv, and he was the guy. He was the guy that booked everybody. Mitzi Shore was the person who booked the comics there. And now it's kind of changed a little bit. All of these clubs, they have shows that are being produced by various comics. So, one comic will call, hey, say, you want to do my show? It's called Horribly Funny at the Comedy Store at 8 o'clock or whatever. It pays, $200 or whatever. And I say, okay. So it's not like the one person that's running the show that's booking it anymore. There's just, it's a much more friendly environment now.
I think that's a good thing that things aren't so territorial that everybody's kind of rooting everybody else on. And that's not to say that there aren't beefs or whatever, but you're much better
Yeah.
off like that versus everybody stabbing each other in the back essentially to try and keep someone else from getting that opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's gotten more so with there's so many comedians and young comics always ask me if I have any advice. And I mean, this was my advice from the beginning though, is just to be original and to write and be unique because there's so many comics out there. They're all talking about pretty much the same thing or they're doing the same style. And then I know it's tough to come up with something that's different, but I think that should be everyone's goal.
Well, look, there are comedians who have been doing the same act for years, and it's not just older guys either. There are younger comics who haven't put it down on video or on audio just yet, and maybe they're justifying it to themselves that they're still trying to hone that set or hone that hour. But it's also important to put it on tape to continue challenging yourself to come up with new stuff too. And I think you've done a great job of that over time.
Yeah, I've had a couple of specials out there. I'm due for a new one because like you said, you want to like be forced to move on and create new material. And so I'm kind of gearing for that. That's one of the reasons I'm touring right now is to kind of put together a 1 hour show.
Well, you have my one of my all-time favorite openers. Gosh, I feel like this was a special that was 10 to 15 years ago. It had to do with courtesy waves. This is unrelated to the set. I had already made a Twitter handle for myself. It was at Courtesy Wave, and I feel like a politician could win an election if they were just to run on a platform of trying to get people to return to giving courtesy waves to one another when we do nice things for each other. Because
Yeah.
sadly, we're at a point now where it's like everybody has a good luck everyone else attitude, especially when you're talking about people behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah. Are you referring to a bit I used to do about when you let somebody in line, you want a little nod of, any kind of
Yeah,
nod
just a
and
little bit of a courtesy. Yeah.
hey man, that's the courtesy. Um,
That's more necessary than ever now, Kevin.
well, it is because like comedians, there's more and more drivers on the road. And I think there's a lot more road rage too, which kind of boils over from regular life. It's people have short attention spans and they're impatient. So they want to get to where they're going as quickly as possible. The funny thing is I woke up the other morning and had a really early flight. I had like a pickup at 5:45 in the morning. And I'm thinking, wow, this is early, man. I'm getting up before anybody. And you get on the freeways and there's tons of cars out there. And they do that every day. I thought everybody got, slept in till like 8 or 9.
So you've got a high school senior now. I've got 10 and 8-year-old at home, so I'm a few years
Oh,
behind you in terms of
okay.
the parent curve. What do you think the biggest challenge is for parents in 2024, Kevin?
Um, Well, I think it's important for a lot of children and a lot of parents to teach their kids values and and what's important in life. And I'm not discouraging my kid from playing on the videos. I think that's a big part of children's lives now is the video world. Not a lot of it, but I love it when he says I'm getting on the with my friends on the video. I think, oh, that's great, man. Have fun, you know. But yeah, I would have to think about that question for a while. But it's just I think if you want to get down to the soulful answer to that, it's just to show them love um, and security, I guess.
Give them the proper time that they deserve. Don't be distracted by other things when you're supposed to be spending that time with them.
Yeah, don't be Harry Chapin, the cat's in the cradle when you're gone all the time. Because I'll go on the road, of course, and maybe I'm not home on a weekend, and I'd rather be home, even though as much as I like doing stand up, and I get frustrated sometimes because I get home and I can see how my son has kind of been influenced by my wife, by her kind of things. And I'm thinking, well, I got to have some input here too, and I got to have him kind of, you know, when he comes in the room, don't go straight to her for advice or a question. I'm available too.
That balance is important, but I certainly don't want to diminish the importance of my wife and my kids' lives. It's just like she's supposed to be the nurturing one, but sometimes you can be overly nurturing. Like our son, when he was really young, I mean, he is her baby. So
Yeah.
every time that he would start to cry, she's picking him up and cuddling him, and it's like, hold on, let him cry. He's not as hurt as you're making it seem like right now. So you're exaggerating this problem. And then sometimes he is really hurt too, and I'm probably being too big of an a-hole about things.
And he looks up to you and he gives you the finger.
He's very good at giving me the finger, Kevin. So is my daughter.
Yeah, I'm sure.
One thing I've taught them. So you played college football, club college football
Yeah.
at Fairfield, and literally took a single class to get to play on this club college football team. You played quarterback, kicked and punted, and you
Yeah.
very nearly tried out as a punter in the USFL. Is that correct?
That is true. It was my buddy and I wanted to play football badly. So this college near us, Fairfield University, had a football team. So we found out we'd be eligible if we took a night course. So we both took a course in criminology and we went to maybe three classes and we got to play for a whole season. Starting quarterback got hurt. So I was able to step in there. And I never played high school football, but we played a lot of sandlot football. And we would play gangs like from across town at the local football field with no reps. So they were pretty rough games. So we were used to the rough and tumble, but it was fun, man. It was a great season for me. And then yeah, I thought, I got pretty good hang time with the punting. So USFL was around. There was a new football league at the time. And I thought, well, you probably don't have to be as good as the NFL to try out for them. So yeah, I was about to try out for them. I thought that would be a good hook for my stand-up because it was happening about the same time. Here he is, Kevin Nealon, funny man, Kevin Nealon, also the kicker for the, whatever the team was. And but luckily, my comedy career took off before that, so I never, gave that a shot.
How strong a leg did you have?
Oh, it was good. Let's see, I don't know what my hang time was, but I watch these kickers now and I think, man, I kick further than that.
Kicking is experiencing a bit of a renaissance right now too. These guys are hitting 50 yarders like it's nothing.
Oh yeah, for place kicks and extra points. Yeah, I played soccer for 3 years in college, so I had pretty strong legs, and I had a good arm too. I could throw really far. Um, let's just put it this way: 100 yards was not enough for me. I needed more yards.
You should have tried the Canadian League then, Kevin.
Yeah, I think that's even shorter.
So you interviewed Mitch Hedberg back in 1999, I guess, in Ireland. You just posted this to your social media.
Yeah,
It's a short interview. It's like 3 minutes or so, but what a fascinating conversation the two of you had. Were you friends with Hedberg back around then?
I wasn't really friends with them, but back then there was a smaller group of comedians, so you kind of knew more of the people, and I just knew him from the clubs a little bit. But I really liked his sense of humor. So we were both in Ireland, and there was that Laugh Festival going on there, comedy festival. And I just sat down with him and talked to him for a while. And, I couldn't find that tape forever. my brother had it because he was going to do a documentary on it. And and finally he sent me these 5 tapes. I think they're on beta, which is a form of recording back then.
Oh yeah.
And, and I transferred them and they were in great shape and I found that. And I don't know if the is the full interview 3 minutes only? The
The full interview that I saw on your YouTube page was like three and
Okay.
a half minutes, I want to say.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
you give a shorter clip on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's it. I wish it was longer, but it was what it was.
Well, it's still interesting to hear him talk about that. I mean, he's in that category of comics that were really at their peak when unfortunately we lost them. I mean, Richard Jennings in that category. Bill Hicks, who is a Texas native, is one of those guys too.
Oh, of
Considering
course. Yeah.
when you were
Sam
touring
Kinison.
around New York when you were on SNL, did you ever cross paths with Bill Hicks?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. I passed, I knew Sam Kinison. He hosted SNL when I was on there once, and I knew him from the Comedy Store and those places. Um, and Bill Hicks, I worked with several times. In fact, the last time I saw him was in Montreal at the Last Laughs. I think so. The
Just for
Laugh.
laughs, yeah.
Yeah, just for laughs. And I remember he was like sitting in like some kind of a club, and some woman was dancing in front of him, and he had a cigarette. He was just, he was kind of drunk and just smoking and enjoying it, the performance. But yeah, that was the last time I saw him.
And Norm is another one of those guys. He is in my opinion, in terms of Weekend Update guys. It's you, him, and Dennis Miller, which maybe dates me a little bit, but I thought y'all did as good a job as anybody on the Weekend Update desk. Apparently today, as we speak on October 17th, is would have been Norm's birthday. I know you share a memory in the book you put out. I exaggerate my brushes with fame, which is part caricature, part storytelling. Do you have a favorite Norm story that was not told in that book, Kevin?
Um, well, I remember there was one season on SNL where they were encouraging everybody to get a flu shot. And I'm all on board for that. And I go to Norm. I said, Norm, did you get your flu shot? What? Flu shot? I go, yeah, you should get a flu shot so you're not sick and you're able to be on SNL. He goes, I don't know, I don't know. He was hemming and hawing for a long time, and he goes, it'll make me sick. I said, no, it'll keep you from getting sick. So I finally talk him into going down to the nurse at 30 Rock, and I make sure he goes in first because I want to see if anything happens. And oh no, I don't think was I with him exactly? Anyway, afterwards he got sick. He got really sick. So I decided not to do it. And he never forgave me for that.
He served as your guinea pig, though.
That's right. He did.
Good
He
on you
did.
for pulling him into that one.
Yeah. I'm sure there's other stories too, but none of them come to mind right now. But he was funny. I think Norm was one of these guys who kind of gained more notoriety after he died. I think more people came to appreciate his style of comedy and his sensibility and his personality, post Norm.
Yeah, there may be something to that. I mean, I saw him. I saw both you and him actually perform at the Zanies in Rosemont in the Chicago area, and I'd never seen either of your stand-up comedy before, and I was blown away by both for different reasons. But he made a name for himself, not just on SNL with all the OJ jokes, but also because he was such a great talk show guest, and you are in that same category as well. But I think people didn't understand just how prolific and well respected he was by other comedians until he died.
Yeah, I mean, he was very interesting. I've worked with him many times in different venues, and I've seen lots of people leave because of his performance sometimes, and I've seen him get standing ovations. So you never knew what was his show was going to be. Sometimes he would just ramble off, and you would think he was drunk sometimes. And I thought that too, or I thought, what is he doing? What kind of drug is he on? And then in hindsight, now that I know he had cancer for 9 years, he was taking all kinds of drugs for the cancer. So that might have explained it.
Yeah, no question. He would get darker than think people realize he was capable of. And you've got a It's almost like a playful darkness about you at times. Like you told a joke on I think what was your most recent special having to do with committing suicide with a hybrid, which I thought was hilarious. And I heard you say in an interview recently that comedy always works better with tragedy. Why do you think that is?
I think people are looking for a relief. I think comedy is the rescue for when you're down, really down and depressed. And um, well, I think when there's a national tragedy, I think more people want to come to the clubs to laugh and kind of forget about that and be distracted. So I think that's why when you have tragedy, comedy is the Excelsior. Is that what it's called? Excelsior. It's kind of like a remedy for being depressed.
Hmm. All
I
right,
know that whenever I was going through a breakup or something, I was really depressed, and I mean I couldn't get out of bed sometimes. But when I would force myself to go do stand up, and I was happy on stage. It was like I forgot about everything. Nothing mattered except listening to the laughs and delivering my material. And it was like being at Disneyland. And as soon as I left those gates, back down into my world again.
well, I've heard comedians talk about being up on stage as a form of therapy. It sounds like you feel that way too at times.
I guess at times it would be like that. Although I know some comics who will abuse the audience with taking that therapy kind of a thing where they're like almost like the audience is their therapist and they're just sitting and just talking and talking with no material at all.
No, you've got to have a point. You've got to have punchlines
Yeah,
too.
you got to have something going on, and you can't just otherwise people should charge them like, $100 an hour to listen and then, at 50 minutes go, your time's up.
All right, last question now, Kevin, and I do really appreciate the time today. I love stand up. You obviously love stand up. What do you love about stand up comedy?
I like the immediacy of it. That's why I liked SNL too, because it was when it's happening when it's happening. When you're doing a film, like I'm doing Happy Gilmore 2 right now in New Jersey, and it's fun. I love hanging out with Sandler and all those guys, but it's not coming out probably for another year, and there's no audience right there. And so I like the immediacy of it, and I do like making people laugh. I like getting that reaction, and maybe making people's day better.
I think that's great. And you think Happy Gilmore 2 is going to be up to snuff with all the expectations people have, considering how beloved the first one is?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think people are really ready for it. I mean, it's been a long time and I really think it's going to do well.
He is the great Kevin Nealon. You can check him out at Cap City Comedy Club tomorrow night, Saturday, and Sunday. The Friday shows are 7 and 9:30, Saturday 6 and 8:30, Sunday at 6 p.m. capcitycomedy.com for tickets to that. Also, make sure to check out his website, kevinnealon.com. You can buy his book, I Exaggerate My Brushes with Fame, through his website, or go to YouTube for episodes of Hiking with Kevin. I believe we're on a little bit of a break right now, but that is a great show as well. Shows your chops as a conversationalist and also a man who loves to stay in shape even at the age of 70. I respect the heck out of that as somebody who's 46 and tries to do the same. So, Kevin, thank you so much for the time today, man. Thank you for the
Thank
flex.
you. I appreciate that, and thanks for having me.
You're still watching or listening on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or elsewhere. I would greatly appreciate you subscribing to this show, and please do like today's episode. Thanks to Gentleman Jesus for the intro and outro music. Hear more of his work at gentlemanjesus.com. Thanks to you for hanging out. For more of the show and to connect on social media, visit booksonpod.com. Talk to you next time on Books on Pod.